Announcing the all-new podcast from the Vista Chamber of Commerce. Velocity is the Vista Chamber's new podcast. Bi-monthly, you'll hear interviews from Vista's movers, shakers, and changemakers with host and chamber CEO, me, Rachel Beld. Tune in and get the latest developments around the city of Vista and get insight from those who have a direct impact on our city. Watch Velocity on YouTube or tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Velocity, moving Vista forward.
When I met his parents for the first time, I didn't know that they were refugees. He's just, come meet my parents. And so I go to the parents' house, and his mother, we drink vodka, and she brings out this wedding dress. And it was huge, this huge wedding dress. I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at her, I'm looking at the dress. And she says, and I got it 60% off. Thinking, what is going on?
And this is the first time you met her.
Like, what is going on?
Yes.
And so she said, I'm so happy you're marrying our son.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
And I'm like, what just happened? And so just one of those unreal moments in your life where you're just like, okay, I'm dreaming, right? Or this might be a movie. I'm not quite even sure what to say.
Sure.
I gulped the vodka, right? Okay. And so then on the train home, because we took the train, we didn't have a car. And they lived in a town near Nuremberg, and we lived in Munich. And so we're taking the train back to school. I'm like, why didn't you tell me any of this? And he's like, I just wanted to be normal. Be normal.
Same business, different day.
Podcast. I am your host, Zeke, recording as usual from the beautiful film home in Vista, California. Our guest today is special. I know I've said it before, but she really is. So knowledgeable, and her outlook is so tuned in to a lot of what we preach here on the Same Business, Different Day podcast. Our goal today is to find out how she reached that outlook. This isn't her first podcast, but we're going to make it her favorite. The Same Business, Different Day podcast welcomes you with open arms, Rachel Ivanovich.
Thanks, Zeke.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much.
I am too. I might be back soon.
Yo, I would love that. Yeah, you'll be welcome back. Watch after this,
We're going to have so much fun today.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
So
right. First things we're going to do, right? We're going to get to know more about you, right? We want to know about your early experiences, the things that molded you into how you became the person that you are today. Cool?
Yep, absolutely. It's a long story.
No, I want to talk about that journey.
We're going to be here for 3 days.
Well, I mean, one of the most interesting things that I read about you, because, my early years, I kind of moved around a lot, right? I was born in Hollywood, right? Born in Hollywood, California. But I was raised in the Bay Area. I was raised in Northern California. But, I mean...
California native.
I'm West Coast born and raised.
Okay, so sunshine. For sure.
Oh, yeah. And I'm down in San Diego County for the weather.
Best place.
And even though I was still in California, Northern California, I don't need 4 seasons. I'm here for less
We
than
have
4.
the best seasons. Just saying.
But the crazy thing that I read about you was like moving around to like 40 different places at a young age, right? Like you moved a lot.
We moved a lot, yeah.
Okay.
And it definitely shaped me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing when you're a child, you don't want to move. You push back. And
sure.
My parents always picked the best times to move, such as the middle of 7th grade.
Yeah. Those formative years.
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, I thought it was terrible then, but looking back now, I know that was one of the things that really not just impacted me as a person, but, built character and just formed me into who I am today.
Yes.
I mean, we moved. I still don't understand exactly why, but I think it was just for fun.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's go from Alaska to Idaho.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. What are some of these places?
And from Idaho, we'll go to Northern California, and then let's go to Southern California, and not just one place in Southern California, but let's go to 12.
Wow.
We didn't move to 12, but we moved a lot. We moved many, many times, and I spent my early childhood in the Pacific Northwest. I wasn't born in Alaska.
You were born in Alaska?
I was born in Alaska,
okay.
Yes. And it's...
I couldn't ask you what that was like because obviously that
I
was
don't
too early.
Well, I was just in Alaska, so it was cold.
Yeah.
But and we searched for a moose. We never found one, though.
Okay.
But moving, I really feel, looking back now as an adult, I can walk into any room and find connection with someone else. And that's the big skill, is find common ground. Walk into a room and... Hi, I'm Rachel. What's your name? Tell me about yourself. And then really listen to what they have to say to you, because there's always going to be something that you can find in a conversation that you have in common with someone else. And that really is the biggest lesson that I've learned from moving a lot as a child and as a teenager, because we moved, I think I went to 4 high schools or 5 high schools.
Wow.
And every time we moved, it was something new and different. And so just really learning and being in tune with who you are as a person and not necessarily conforming with where you went, but being true to yourself was a huge lesson for me.
Yes.
And I think it makes me a genuine person, because I moved, and every different place we went, there was something different. But it also taught me different is just different.
Okay.
And learn to find that common ground wherever you go, because wherever you go, there you are, because you are you. And so it's really important to tune into, what do you like? What are your core values? What are you passionate about? And really not to lose that as you move from place to place.
That's great. I mean, I love it, but at the same time, though, at a young age, I mean, there's got to be some culture. I mean, that's wise what you're saying now,
right?
Right.
As a
but
child,
how much wisdom did you have?
I'll tell you what. We moved from the mountains of Idaho to Sonoma, California, when I was in the 7th grade. And I'm not kidding. We moved in October of 7th grade, and I had a mullet.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's
in the
a
back,
big cultural
and the feathered hair up at the top.
That wasn't the Sonoma style.
It was not. Oh my goodness! I was so. It was a huge.
At least it was a blonde mullet.
It was so not California.
Yeah, I get it.
But I had powder blue sneakers with rainbow laces, because that was cool in Idaho and fun, and I loved it. And we would ride bikes and jump into the lake, and we moved to California. It was just such a different scene.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was in Girl Scouts always. So that's where I always found my people.
Okay.
And the Girl Scouts, they were about serving and about somebody might be different, but let's find the common ground wherever you go, and let's, be who you are. And I think that through Girl Scouting, I learned so many different skills. And so there was a Girl Scout troop in every single place, and people were...
I like that.
It was just the way to reconnect whenever I moved to a different city.
So then that could even be like a selling point, right? For your parents who are moving you around, they could always say,
but
there will be
up.
Some Girl Scouts there. No, they didn't bring that up. You found it yourself.
I mean...
You got all this wisdom on your own. I see where this is coming from.
My parents, they were busy. My parents were great.
Okay.
Are great. My mom lives with us and has lived with my husband and myself for 6 years. But my parents were entrepreneurs. And so I think about it now, how on earth did my parents do that? Because I know how hard it is to set up a business. And I know how hard you have to work to build connections and build those deep relationships and actually earn the trust of the community.
That's right.
And so the fact that they moved every year or year
you're
and a half.
new to the community.
As a child, I had no idea of these things. It was just, my parents are starting a business, or they're working. And oftentimes, when I was 12, my parents had a restaurant. This was also in Idaho. So I was waiting tables and watching what they were doing. And So
you were helping out at 12 years old. You were actually working.
I was working I learned how to run the dishwasher. I swept the floors, I did the scrubby thing on the grill. Okay. I did all those things. So entrepreneurship really, was in my blood from the very beginning. My dad was a landscaper. And then, of course, they started a restaurant. So this does not make sense. It still doesn't make sense to me, really. But I just say they were entrepreneurs.
But so many experiences, though.
So many different experiences.
And you could use that in your current life. I mean, you're seeing, and I mean, we talk about the experiences, but let's not forget the people.
Right.
Because to be bouncing around like this, sure, they may be judging you because you look like Idaho or whatever. But
totally,
but the fact of the matter is, what do they look like?
Right.
Compared to what you just came from,
Yeah.
you know, and you keep going around to these different people. And then as you reconnect, you're like, okay, well, tell me what you guys eat at dinner, or, you know,
Absolutely.
what time you guys do, you know.
Well, for
play.
instance, I lived in Germany for 10 years. And
Okay.
so I was an exchange student. And so that's another long story.
No, what age was that when you
So
were?
I went to Germany when I was 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. And I didn't speak the language at all.
So you're okay with just getting parachuted into places?
Why not? Let's just do it. Let's go. I had been at a boarding school. I told you this was going to be 3 days.
I'm with it.
So I was at a boarding school and didn't like it. Mm-hmm. And believe me, I was going to do anything and everything in my power to find a different solution or opportunity for myself. Mm-hmm. And one day I saw a poster on the wall that said, "Be an exchange student to Germany." And I thought, well, why not? Why not? And so I applied, and I was selected. They selected, it was the Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange Program.
Nobody stopped you from making this decision, though.
I just
it sounds like a
did it.
decision you
I just told my parents that I
That's what you
applied. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, my parents were working and they were doing the entrepreneurship thing, right? And
Okay.
It's boarding school. So, and this was, of course, before cell phones and internet. Mm-hmm. And there was one telephone. It wasn't even a booth in the lower yard of the school. Mm-hmm. And to use the phone, you'd have to stand in line. It was freezing. And so I didn't call my parents very often.
Okay.
And so I was 15, and what do you do when you're 15 and you hate your situation? You seek, hopefully, to change it in a positive
For the
way.
better, sure.
And I thought, why not? I'll just go to Germany.
Yes.
And what's funny is, of course, no internet.
Right.
I didn't even know that there was an East and West Germany at that point because I hadn't taken the class yet. I mean, world history was after U.S. history, right? And that was junior year. And so I didn't know there was a wall in the middle. I mean, there was no internet. You couldn't search things out. Yeah. And so I thought, well, I mean, I know they speak German there, and maybe I knew ja and nein. Those were 2 words, and maybe I knew danke. Okay. Because most people know those. But, I mean, literally went with just, all right, let's go. And was sponsored by the U.S. Congress and the German Bundestag to go. And I don't know where we were going with this conversation, but I think I know now. Let's bring it back around to learning that people are different, but you can find that common ground.
Right.
And it was really interesting going there as an exchange student at age 16 for multiple reasons. But one of the biggest was, and the whole idea behind the program was to promote understanding between...
Yeah, this is the Youth for Understanding program.
Yes.
Okay.
And so 300 German students were selected. I don't know if the program still exists today, and 300 Americans. And you didn't switch families, but it paid for 100% by the government.
Okay.
And we went to Washington, D.C. for 2 weeks before we left to Germany and learned about U.S. government, learned about the German government, learned about being ambassadors and how to seek first to understand others. And then, of course, we were placed in families and went based on our German abilities. Of course, mine was 0. We went to language camps as part of our first 4 weeks in the country. And I mean, it was a really powerful experience. And
it had to be.
I think really one of the things I learned besides just seeking first to understand was that listening and watching body language.
Yes.
And really being able to connect with other people without words.
Right.
North County Daily Star is the leading source for news and community information along the 78 corridor. It's free to subscribe and it is updated daily. Look for us on your mobile device or computer at ncdailystar.com.
Thank you for tuning in to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. If you like the way that our show sounds and looks and are interested in doing a podcast of your own, send us an email. Yes, we've gotten into the podcast game, producing podcasts for individuals and businesses just like you. Contact us at adifferentdayradio@gmail.com or on IG at adifferentdayradio. Right.
And I think it's a very powerful thing to learn at a young age. Mm-hmm. And
now you did that for 10 years? You were there for 10 years?
I was there for a year.
Okay.
And came back at the very end. I spent my junior year there.
Okay.
Came back, and my family got divorced right after I got back. Mm-hmm. And so, again, long story about how I got back to Germany. But my host family had convinced me about 2 years afterwards. I didn't have money for college. When my parents got divorced, I did not have any money for college.
Wow.
And so I found out through my host family that if I had a junior standing at a community college, that I could go to Germany and go to school for free.
Okay.
And so,
because I was going to ask you, like, what those years were like back in the U.S. after you had learned what you had learned in Germany, but then you had so much going on, it was probably just get me out of here.
Oh my gosh. It was honestly my junior year abroad was amazing. And I learned so much, not only about myself, but about the world and other people and world cultures. Right. And it just really opened my eyes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd already moved around a lot. Okay. And so I was really open-minded and loved to learn about new people and what they did and how they lived, because not everybody lives and has the same kind of life that you do.
Right.
They're just different. And that's cool.
Yeah.
And so coming back, and so from the time I think I landed back in America and found out my parents were getting divorced to probably until I was 35. So I mean, that's a lot of years. Right. There was so much adversity, let's just say that, that I don't even know, I don't even know where to start to tell you the stories.
Well, tell me about the education outside of that you were getting in Germany. I'm interested in knowing how they're teaching you. Now, I understand that they were teaching you about history and the various things.
So I was actually a student at a German high school.
That's what I'm, that's.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they just threw me in and I flunked. It was terrible. I was a straight A student in the US. And so being put in, it was so interesting to be not the dumb kid, but the student that didn't understand, and it gave me a great empathy for that people learn differently, and maybe that, because oftentimes you get labeled, and it gave me a different viewpoint as to, wow, maybe they can't. They're not comprehending what they're reading. Maybe they're reading the words, but they don't understand.
That's right.
And so, or maybe they aren't a visual learner. Maybe they're an maybe they learn. I mean, people learn differently.
That's right.
So it gave me such great empathy for others, because I think I was a little. I mean, it really saved me, I think, as a person in a way, because I was a straight A student, and I mean, I kind of looked at people sideways, and so I think that it was really humbling for me to be the kid that didn't have all the answers.
That's right.
And I really love that.
And a lot of people need that. A lot of people need to be humbled.
Absolutely.
Because there are still folks out there that kind of had it easy, keep it cruising, and then look at other people in this odd way. Yeah. But labeling others is wrong. And it actually goes to a conversation that I think of in the back of my head every time I meet somebody like you who is so great at math.
I'm not good at math, though.
No?
No, I'm terrible at math.
I thought that you... Okay, so I'm looking at you as like a math wizard.
Don't tell my tax clients. I'm great at puzzles.
Okay. So that, but because when I think about that, right, it's just like one of those things where it's like, I just don't speak that language. I'll tell people in a second, I'm all words. I don't have that math language that some people do, where they can figure all of that stuff out.
Oh, believe me, my son is a math genius.
Yeah, I love it, though. I mean, I love that people can speak that language, but hopefully they don't label me for not.
It's a different gift.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got gifts. Everybody does. And I think that,
does.
And that's what I think I learned. I mean, I learned so many things, but truly being able to sit in the classroom and not comprehend anything.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
It
Talk
was,
about culture shock. I mean, that's just another. You've been shocked for a lot of years.
yeah. But I mean, and the school system was completely different. And I really loved that there were, I mean, I loved some things about it. There were some things that I disagreed with, but I mean, sure, they have their reasons. But when I was in Germany, it may have changed since then, but when you were, I think it was 11 or 12, your parents and the teachers kind of decided for you if you were going to be a university-bound student or if you were going to go to trade school. And so I think that there's so much growth that happens between ages 10 and 30.
Yeah, sure.
And I felt that was an unfair advantage to those that, for instance, my mom and dad both went back to college when they were in their 40s or late 30s. And so I think having that option is amazing, but having the options of trade schools and entrepreneurship, I think, is also really important. And so I took 10 classes when I was there at Germany.
Okay.
I mean, back in the States, you don't take 10 classes.
That's a heavy
It was
load.
a heavy load, but I learned so many different things.
So many smart people come out of Germany. Let's not, underestimate it, what they're doing out there. They're working hard. They're learning a lot. It's interesting. A conversation I was having with another guest, Wasim Hajiri, where he was talking about he got an engineering degree in Jordan.
Oh wow!
And but he was saying that he'd probably get paid like $500 a month with that degree there.
Yeah.
And so he came here and went to school.
Good
and
for
now
him.
he's doing very, very well, right? But I mean, just thinking about how folks get treated with the education that they get somewhere else versus,
Yeah. Well, it just makes you think of education with new eyes.
Right.
Because there's not just one way to do it.
That's true.
And I feel that our educational system needs an overhaul.
I don't doubt it. I think, most of them do, though, to be honest, but definitely ours, and it's also good to see. Sometimes you see people putting money back into education. Yeah. Because there's a lot of money floating around and we're throwing it at different things and trying to fix various problems.
Absolutely.
But if you throw it into education,
I feel that, honestly, there needs so many skills that you learn in entrepreneurship need to be taught in school. And I mean, money and finance needs to be taught in school. Emotional intelligence, how to connect with other people that are different than you are and that are the same. And I feel like these topics really need to be addressed.
No doubt.
And I'm hopeful, and I'm seeing glimmers of this coming, and it makes me happy.
That's good.
There's gonna be a lot of work still to be done.
There are a lot.
But I feel like we're going in the right direction. At least I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful.
Yeah. I think a lot for me it would be more culturally, right? There's like the interpersonal relationships, understanding each other.
That emotional intelligence.
Right.
Yes.
There's the brutalities and things that happen out there in the world. There's so many. Or even like as simple as street hustles. Teach the high schoolers not to get caught in some of the things that can happen to you out there that will con you into something.
Absolutely.
Because there are old people still getting conned to this day. You call them up and say, wire me $10,000.
Oh yeah, the elder abuse is rampant.
Yeah. So education is just important across the board,
It
and
is.
I think it needs to be expanded for so many more things than what it is.
Entrepreneurship.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So tell me more, though, about, so now you get back. Now you go to San Diego State.
That was way later.
Yeah.
I told you there was
Let's
this
get there.
huge span of years in between. So went to Germany, and I had achieved junior status by then. I lived in my car for about 6 months after my parents got divorced. And like I told you, it's a long story.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got time.
And one of the lessons that I've learned and healed from, I will tell you, is that there's always two sides to or more than two sides to a story. And so I felt when my parents got divorced that I didn't belong anywhere. I had huge culture shock from being gone in Europe for a year, and I really immersed myself. I didn't call my parents very often. I mean, there were no cell phones at that time, and it was really expensive to call the United States. So I think I talked to my parents twice the entire year I was abroad.
Okay.
And my host family didn't speak English at all. And so I spoke German all year.
Wow.
I mean, I was fluent by the end of the year.
Great.
Which was amazing.
Yes.
And I started dreaming in German, and I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to just soak up the culture, and my host family had friends down in Italy, so we went down to Italy quite a bit. And I fell in love with Europe, and I fell in love with the I don't know, it's not the easy life, but it's just a slower pace of life. Because my parents were living in Southern California by this point, and so coming back, it was just a major culture shock, and I really didn't want to be here. And then when my host family was, they said, well, what, come back. And so I went back to Germany when I was 21 and got into a program at the University of Munich, and I met a Russian. And so that's a long story. He and I ended up...
That's a title to a chapter right there. I just heard it in your voice. And I met a Russian.
Yes. And we fell in love, and then I found out he was a refugee. And talk about learning that you have it good, and learning the story of his family, then how they had escaped from the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Because this was 1990. It was in the early 90s. And so I was there when the Berlin Wall came down, by the way, which was so cool.
Right.
And so meeting a family that had fled their country because they'd been politically persecuted was terrifying for me. And to think that they would sacrifice everything to give their children a better life.
Yeah.
I had such respect for that. Sure. And then they told me that they were refugees. And I didn't know that when I met him. Right. I mean, he was just another student. And he was Russian. Yeah. And it was exciting because I was an American in the Cold War. I mean, I grew up during the Cold War. And so he was another human being, and he was, funny and fun. And I mean, the idea of the way that Russians were portrayed was the enemy and scary. Right. And so, of course, I meet someone who's from there the first time, and it was, we actually bonded because we felt like we had a lot of common ground in that the Soviet Union was a big Soviet Union, and then the United States was superpowers. And so it was one of the topics that we were able to actually talk about because they were very, I don't know what the right word is, patriotic is probably the right word. Okay. I mean, you've probably seen the tapes of the marching and the bands that would come and play, and his dad was a musician, and he played in the state orchestra, and so when the heads of state would meet, he would come out and march. Yeah. And so
he felt that pride.
I'm
interested in knowing what language you guys were speaking.
German.
Okay.
German.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, he had basically been smuggled out of the country by his parents when he was 16, and he was now 21. We met on his 21st birthday. Actually, we met today, 28 years ago, I think. Right. That's really weird. Okay. But when I met his parents for the first time, I didn't know that they were refugees. He's just, come meet my parents. And so I go to the parents' house, and his mother, we drink vodka, and she brings out this wedding dress. And it was huge, this huge wedding dress. I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at her, I'm looking at the dress. And she says, and I got it 60% off. I'm thinking, what is going on?
This is the first time you met her.
Like, what is going on?
Yes.
And so she said, I'm so happy you're marrying our son.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
And I'm like, what just happened? And so just one of those unreal moments in your life where you're just like, okay, I'm dreaming, right? Or this might be a movie. I'm not quite even sure what to say.
Sure.
I gulp the vodka, right? Okay. And so then on the train home, because we took the train, we didn't have a car. And they lived in a town near Nuremberg, and we lived in Munich. And so we're taking the train back to school. I'm like, why didn't you tell me any of this? And he's like, I just wanted to be normal. And they'd been refugees, and they were stateless. And I can't imagine, when it went through my head, I couldn't imagine not having a country.
Right.
As much as I loved living in Europe and living the European student lifestyle,
Yeah.
I mean, the USA is my home. And like I said, I mean, we were brought up be, patriotic. And I couldn't imagine being stateless.
Right.
And so it was one of those situations where I was dumbfounded almost. Like I couldn't even almost comprehend.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
Not
20,
many
I was
people
21, for goodness sakes.
Even
I mean,
still, remember at any age, who could imagine being stateless?
And I can't, yeah.
You have somewhere to
and
claim.
so my heart went out. I mean, I've had so many levels of this heart being humbled and wow, I have it so good.
Yes.
I mean, despite the adversity that I've been through, I have an amazing life.
Right.
And so I think it really has instilled in me just love of people, and that everyone has their story, and you could connect in a deep way because everyone has pain and brokenness.
Of course.
And everybody wants and has value and worth, and everybody wants to have that connection and to be seen, to be valuable.
That's right.
And to have purpose.
Yes. Yeah. And you saw that in him. You saw that in his family.
I did. And I was so torn because my mom and dad got married when they were 21, and then in Turkey, no less. And that's a whole other story of how they got to Turkey in the 60s. Okay. And I was almost born in Istanbul instead of Alaska. But anyway, that's like I said.
Oh, in Istanbul.
Yeah, in Istanbul, in Turkey.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So I didn't necessarily want to be a young mom and get married young because my mom had always said, don't get married young. Learn, don't do what I did, and make sure you get your degree first and figure out what you want to do, who you want to be when you grow up. And so then I was really torn because they told me the whole story of, well, he's going to get sent back to Chernobyl.
Right. So he needed you, and your heart was already going out.
And I already, we'd already been dating for a while, and so I thought, well, okay.
Right.
And so we got married.
Yeah.
And we had kids.
Yeah.
And we were there for, like I said, and that's why I was there for 10 years. And there's a lot that happened while we were living in Munich together.
What were you doing? Were you doing anything professionally during this time?
I was, actually. Okay. I was working at a cafe in Munich.
Okay.
And I was their bookkeeper and manager, I guess.
Okay.
It was a student-run organization.
Okay.
Because I was on a student visa while I was in Germany. But I basically met with 10 employees, and we came up with menus, and we did served beer and food, and
you got some work experience. You
a lot of German partiers and revelry.
Okay.
Throwing beer bottles off the roof, but I mean, it was a good experience managing a restaurant. And
did you think you would be there forever?
I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really loved Germany. At the point I had children, I really started missing my family. And so it was the situation of, do we go back? Do we stay? What do we do?
Yeah.
And his family was there, and I told him, I said, well, let's just try a year in the States. Why not? So I applied to UC Santa Barbara, and they would only accept me as an international student, which I thought was really interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but they accepted all of my units from the University of Munich. And so I was able to come into UCSB as a senior and do 3 quarters or whatever their system was. So he came in, we arrived in September. Our daughter was a year and a half old.
Oh, okay. We
lived in family student housing, and I remarkably only had to take Chicano studies and art history A and B. Okay. So the classes that were kind of missing from the puzzle that you have to fulfill before you graduate. But they accepted, all my business classes from the University in Munich and all my German classes. And I actually graduated with a bachelor's in German. Go figure.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The person who went to Germany couldn't speak a lick, and now graduates with a bachelor.
I have a BA in German.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Why not? And just...
Now the kids, I mean, what was their adjustment? like, or had they ever been to the States?
So Julie was just a year and a half old at that point, and our second child wasn't born yet at that point. So when I graduated, we went right back, because at that point I had my daughter. I was working at the cafe, and I figured, you know what, we'll just wait until Alexei graduates, and then we'll move back to the States, or not, depending on what happens. And we had a second child at that point, and then things started to get to the point where Alexei needed more time to study and needed more time alone, and so I ended up leaving with both kids by myself and coming back to the States.
Okay.
And there's a whole story.
That had to be tough.
It was tough. It was really tough because Sasha was a baby, and he's a boy. His name's Sasha. He goes by Alex.
Happens.
It goes by Alex though now, Alexander. Okay. And I came back with both kids by myself and lived on $1,000 a month. And in Ventura, California, my parents were living.
I love Ventura. You didn't go with, you did go see your parents. You were with, or at
No,
least
I
one
lived
of your
in a
parents.
little place by myself down the street
okay.
from my dad and my stepmom's house. And it was a really tough time because, Alexei was still back in Germany, and I was alone with the kids, and he was studying, and I was trying to figure out what was next. And I didn't know, was he going to come? Was he going to join us? Was he not going to join us?
Discussed that.
Well, it was supposed to be that he was going to join us after he graduated.
Yeah.
And yeah. So 2 months turned into 4 months, and 4 months turned into more. And he ended up coming over eventually, and from there, things deteriorated. Yeah. And I don't necessarily want to go into the story on the show because, things are good. We are great friends now. There were a lot of very, very painful years. Sure. I was a single mom for a long time. But I will say that he and I are friends. I mean, not close friends, but we've reconciled all of our differences. Right. But I was basically all alone with both kids for many years.
They stay in touch with it?
Yes. It was off and on for a while. Yeah. It was off and on for a while.
So then is that when you came from Santa Barbara from Ventura down to San Diego?
That was when I ended up, from Ventura down to San Diego, was shortly thereafter. I came to Carlsbad in
it's interesting
year 2000.
That things... Really, a lot of this is teetering on education, right? Yes. We're talking about Alexei, he wanted to finish his education out there. You moved in one place to UCSB to go get it, to finish your degree. And so there's a lot of that. And then you went to San Diego for...
my master's.
Yeah.
Yeah. But education was, that was really my big push and my driving force. And
even with kids, you got young kids, and you're did. Like, it's like... Still got to go get these degrees.
That was really important to me, and even it's interesting that you pick up on that, because that was when my parents got divorced. All I wanted to do was go to college. I really wanted to go to college, and it was like fighting and biting and clawing and scratching. And I was like, I will get my degree if it, I'll do. Nothing illegal or sure. But I will, go to a different country if I have to. Yeah. And so. Yeah, I ended up here a single mom and working 2 jobs and going to school at night. And there were some hard years. Yeah. Like really hard years.
It's hard without kids going to school, especially with, the master's degree, all of this stuff. That can be intense on its own. And you were doing it with kids, single mom, it
was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. Like I joke, my husband I'm remarried now and just have a great partner. He's amazing. Uh-huh. But he calls it my urban shopping, because when the kids were little and I didn't have money for clothes, I'd go run at the beach in the morning and I'd find shirts and pants and towels, and
makes sense.
And I would come home and wash it.
I've left clothes at the beach before.
Believe me, I probably picked them up. My son's wearing it back in New York. Just kidding. But truly, I've come a long way. But and education really was for me, even with my children. And when I ended up leaving one of my jobs to start my own business, was because I was so sick of being dictated. You have to show up at this time and you have to leave at this time and you can't go to your kids' fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to be there for my children. Yes. And so left a job. I faxed in my resignation and walked out one day. And before I faxed in my resignation, I went and bought a new car.
Okay.
I pulled up to the Honda dealership, the check engine light's on, the car's on its last legs. I'm like, the guy looks at me, I'm like, my makeup's smeared, I'm crying all the way to the dealership. And he says to me, he's like, I think that you probably should go talk to the people in the sales office. He's like, this car's not going to make it.
Right.
He's like, I don't even want to write anything up. He's like, maybe you'll get $1,000 for it.
Yeah.
So it was just a godsend. I ended up getting a Honda hybrid. They were brand new, and I was commuting to San Diego State from Carlsbad, so I was able to go in the carpool. I got the yellow sticker.
Yeah.
And so I was able to take, I dropped my kids off, after working a full day at my best friend's house, who just, she saved me. She watched them so many nights while I was in grad school.
Yeah.
But you got this car and drove off the lot and went to Kinko's and faxed in my resignation. I was like, done with that.
Yeah.
And I had no plan B. It was like, all right, I'm starting a business and this is what I'm doing. And I somehow have to feed my kids, and
wow.
Had I known some of the resources that are available, because I'm part of Carlsbad Rotary and we serve food insecurity is huge. Yeah, Monday we packaged 10,000 meals for families. And had I known that there were these programs out there, I think that it would have been... it would have been great to know, but I didn't. It's like, all right, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And
I love that. And especially with all that you had on the line, to have no plan B like that and just go for it. That's like huge. And there are so many people, right, that like we talk about it on the show a lot, especially during this time, right? During the pandemic, where folks either were losing their jobs or just leaving their jobs. They were tired of, or they just kind of figured it out because they're at home all day. And
it's like, I can do something different.
I got time to write up a whole plan. Yeah. Now, how do I go and facilitate it, right? And they still may not know these resources that you're talking about, but at the same time, they're just like, it's just what better time to go for it.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's talk about you going for it. All right? Now, it's so interesting. Now that we know how interesting your background is, let's transition into the professional life, okay? In 2006, Rachel Ivanovich became the founder and owner of Easy Life Management Tax Preparation as an enrolled agent. She is also a business coach and also works with aspiring entrepreneurs to fulfill their dream to own their own businesses. Like we said before, we're sitting today with a woman that shares some of our beliefs about the business owners of our future. Rachel Ivanovich, we welcome you again to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm having fun. This is great.
I know, it is fun. Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. So now, here we go. No plan B. We're starting our own. Is that the first gig? The tax practice, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, of course, I leave my job and I'm just, all right, I'm done with that. I'm doing this. I called my 10 best friends. I'm like, all right, I'm in business. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and you better be my first 10 clients.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I was like, send me all your friends.
Okay.
Like, anybody who hasn't filed their taxes yet.
Right.
So, but it's really interesting because I thought, all right, I'll just start my business. And I had no idea about running a business. But still, why not? I just got in my car. I was like, made a list, go to Fry's, get a laptop. I need QuickBooks. What are the things? And so one of the lessons that I learned, and I think is a great lesson for young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, because young are young at heart, is you don't have to have all of the things in place to start. You just need to start, because if you don't get going, you can make all the excuses in the book. And I personally think you just got to go. Like you're passionate about something, then you get the help that you need. And there's so many different resources out there. And for me, I always found, I think one of the things I did really well in my business was to take time every day to plan. not just my day, but the business, like how, and to anticipate kind of what's coming next, and looking at trends of find a need, fill a need sort of situation.
Okay.
Because there's, and also I leveraged and worked with other people in my industry, and I never looked at them as competitors. I looked at them because there's enough work for everyone. Mm-hmm. There's enough work and there's enough business out there for everyone. And I think if you lean on not just other entrepreneurs, and there's so much power in the synergy of talking to other entrepreneurs and being transparent of, this worked for me, and this is something that I did that really helped, or I'm really struggling here. Can you help me? Yes. And being able to really ask for that help. That's right. That you need. Mm-hmm. That helps. But
you got to know your resources.
You absolutely will. And you also have to be able to open up, and hopefully you're able, there's a huge power in mastermind groups. And so I think one of the things that really, really helped me was joining the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I got to get a plug in for the chamber. Yeah. But honestly, when I joined the Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce, I learned how much of a resource other business owners can be to you, and to really find someone as a mentor. You need mentors, and you need others, people who've gone before you, so that you can learn from them, but they also can, because believe me, I needed mentors, and I had mentors as I worked through the years. I mean, I've been in business for almost 17 years now. It's amazing. Can't even believe it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. But you, and then of course now I'm mentoring others because I want to see others succeed. Right. And I love it. I love to, when somebody tells me their dream about the business that they want to start, it gets me so fired up. Yeah. I'm like, okay, tell me more. Like, what have you done so far? Yeah. Like, where do you need help with? Like, let me help you shore up your weaknesses, and let me help lift you up, and I'll connect. Who do you need to know? Let me connect you with people, because you need those connections. It's so powerful. But I love entrepreneurs.
The Same Business, Different Day podcast is brought to you by YourInsurancePlace.com. YourInsurancePlace.com is a conglomeration of two agencies, Network One Insurance and Bill Corley Insurance Agency. Their property and casualty agents and brokers specialize in commercial insurance of all types, general liability, workers' compensation, professional liability, auto, agribusiness, and much more. They also have great insurance carriers for your homes and autos. How do I know they are that good? Because I'm one of the agents. We believe in ourselves, and you will too. Contact us at YourInsurancePlace.com or call us direct at 866-384-0479. That's YourInsurancePlace.com.
Hi, I'm Jeff Fox, founder of StarFox Media. We're a digital marketing and video production company that focuses on serving small businesses here in Vista, California. We have the team and all of the equipment necessary to produce, film, edit, and distribute your podcast to as many people as possible. For more information, you can reach out to us via email at info@starfox.media or give us a call at 760-385-3117. Let StarFox Media help you tell your brand story today.
Yeah, you're one of the best kind of people to know when it comes to networking. I sit on a chamber board as well, and I work with a couple of chambers, and we talk a lot about Chamber of Commerce here, right? Chambers of Commerce, but there's so many different types of networking groups.
Oh, absolutely.
But the chambers are really good because it's not necessarily a competitive thing, right?
Right.
Yes, and we're all kind of working for the greater good. So
and the business community. Yeah,
before.
Absolutely, because they also advocate on behalf of business owners.
That's right.
And so I've just seen, and I've been really impressed with all of the chambers in San Diego, just how they've really banded together during the pandemic.
Right.
and not just with each other, but with the cities. And
Right.
it just makes my heart happy to see that there's so much goodness there, and that and everybody wants to help each other is what I've seen.
So you persevered though in business. I mean, and this is during the time
It was
you're
rough.
talking about 17 years ago. There's no social media. It's no easy way to be successful.
That's why we named it Easy Life Management. Like my daughter actually named the business because, well, Carlsbad Village Drive used to be Elm Avenue. I don't know if you know that or not.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so they just took the little sign down that was on the exit off the 5.
Okay.
But I was like, I can't just be Elm Tax. I have to earn the name. So, okay, Julia, and she's 8 or 9, whatever. Like, what's Elm stand for? And she's like, Mom, everybody wants an easier life. I was
Right.
like, okay, all right.
I like it.
And it was really fortuitous that we picked that name because I knew that tax wasn't necessarily, I fell into the tax business. I mean, you said you must be great at math. Well, I was going to school getting my MBA. And I just happened to have a job at, H&R Block when I first started, and then I worked for a CPA firm, and I was good at it. So I kind of fell into it and was good at it.
Yeah.
But
There was something bigger there.
There was something bigger there.
Yeah.
And I think I even mentioned this to you when we first met, is that, the tax return is just this summary. It's this lifeless paper document that everyone has to file.
Yeah.
But there's so much more. And so I was really intrigued by when I would sit at the table with clients and their families, and they would tell me their stories and their dreams, and the dream of the kid going to college or buying a new home or retiring their parent or whatever that dream was.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what pulled me. Or starting, I have an idea for a business. And so that's what got me fired up. And that's what I loved. And so the idea of my business was the tax business. Sure. Okay, we got that. But how can I help people realize their dreams?
And how do you?
So we work with business owners to help them succeed. And so, but we meet people where they are, because there's so many different layers in business. I mean, you're in business, and I mean, and people have different gifts and different skills. And so maybe they're great at the marketing, but maybe they're terrible at the bookkeeping.
Right.
Or maybe they're great at bookkeeping, but they're struggling with work-life balance because, they get home and their phone's blowing up and their kid wants to talk to them, and they're regurgitating their day on their child. and it's...
I've lived that.
You've lived that, right? And so, being able to help them put boundaries in place and set expectations with their clients and their family, because, that's important, because you can do business. Yeah.
That's the reason for the logo.
I love it.
It's the business and the personal, the match.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to have that balance.
It's
I
holistic.
love that balance.
Yeah. You have to, and so we meet clients where they are. And and we do that through the medium of a tax return.
Right.
So we
It's
provide
kind of like a roadmap, like you're really seeing something there.
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you that probably 9 out of 10 people that walk into our office, and now, we're doing Zoom, but they have an idea for a business.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I've helped so many different business owners, take that idea and kind of pull. Sometimes, it's kind of like pulling teeth in a way, because they're like, well, I don't know, maybe after.
Yeah.
And there's always the excuses, but I think it's kind of, that's the fear because of the unknown, or
Right. And they got to be encouraged to take that leap.
they have to be encouraged to hear. And I think knowing my story and being able to share with them, look, I was a single mom. I had no savings.
Yeah.
I had a ton of credit card debt, actually. And it was like, all right, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I was studying business, but small business and what they teach you in business school are two completely different things.
Yes.
And so really just jumping in with 2 feet is what I tell a lot of people.
That's how you learn German.
That is how I learned German. Absolutely. Immersion. So, but that's how we work with clients, is really meeting with them, listening to their heart. We ask a lot of questions. We've got questionnaires, and we've got all the the methods and the tools.
So
and
now
so
you
on.
facilitating after the fact? Are you helping with business plans, marketing plans? Or are you a piece,
Marketing,
a
not
part
as
of-
much,
Okay.
because I believe there's a lot of business coaches and business businesses, let's just say out there, that do marketing and do marketing well. We're different because we have finance, accounting as our kind of our backbone.
Right.
And so you have to know your numbers.
Yeah.
It's so important. And so many people, they skimp on bookkeeping, or they're like, I'll just get to that later. And then, they'll call me in December. I'm like, so, how was your year? Well, I don't know. I'm like, well, you got to know. And it's for more than one reason. You can plan. You need to be able to plan. Or actually, are you making money on that widget that you're selling, or on that service that you're providing? Or should you maybe shift into something else? But I think that entrepreneurs need to be encouraged from a younger age. And so I'm really excited that I've heard this stirring at the schools that they're starting to talk about entrepreneurship more.
Right.
And so, we've rolled out a program this last year, a mastermind for new entrepreneurs. I love it. Because you don't have $500 a month or $1,000 or whatever that a lot of programs are out there are offering. So, I have 5 kids. 2 are my bio kids, Julie and Sasha, and my husband had 3 kids. We're a blended family, but they're all ages 18 to 25. And so we had a dinner, and and they all have these great entrepreneurship ideas, and they all have their little side businesses, which is great because that's what we planted the seeds in them when they were young.
Perfect.
Like my parents did for me. But what could you afford? What would you, because we all agreed free is not an option. You have to have some skin in the game.
Right.
And so, but what about $50 a month? And so really, but being able to have an open forum where that you can ask all the questions you want. But then we bring in speakers that will talk about marketing. We'll bring in speakers that'll talk about bookkeeping, accounting, about forecasting, budgeting, about, you name it. We're trying to cover it in that group, but also really just opening it up to what are your questions?
Right.
Because I want to answer all the questions, but provide it at a reasonable cost.
Right.
Because I want people to succeed.
Right.
And so I think that
I saw that. I think I saw that on your site. Like the membership program, right? It was like
yes. Well, that's one of the things that we do.
Okay.
Believe me, I've got like 1,000 ideas. It's just and they're just evolving.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, they need you. I need
them.
You're providing
because
such an important service.
I'm learning so much from young entrepreneurs too, and I think that's one of the biggest things because I meet people who are in their 90s, and I always ask, "What's the secret sauce? What is it?" And so I've been observing and kind of watching, and I feel having purpose that's bigger than you, giving back, and then continuing to learn and not close your mind to because there's so many times that I'm kind of pushed back on new technology, or I'm like, because, and I'm a Gen Xer, so I still have my 10 key and the tape, and I just hired a CPA, and he's in, he's like, I'm a bad millennial because I'm not on social media. It was funny, but we were talking about that he still has, somebody gave him a 10 key as a gag gift when he graduated, and he's never even taken it out of the box. But so back to what's the secret sauce is being open to learn the new and what's coming, and being able to let go of old ways and keep some things, but really be able to realize there might be a better way to do this.
Right.
And just have an open mind.
You got to be open for the innovators.
You do. Yeah. And I've learned so much even since I've hired him that it's fun.
That's great.
And so I'm excited about that.
That's great. And like you working with the youth is just so special. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, that it's kind of like, one of the goals of the show. Now,
Absolutely.
We've had the conversations back and forth. When we talk about the entrepreneurial spirit, it's not always about having to have your own business sometime in the future, right? Because we want people to think like business owners. It's kind of where it starts, right?
Yes.
So if you start there, and if you're thinking like a business owner, even in the corporate world, then when it comes time for you to go talk to your boss, you're trying to help him.
Absolutely.
You're trying to help him build that business. That's how you get the promotion, right? Because now you're thinking like him. You're thinking like a business owner. And yes, eventually you could go off and do your own thing because now you're understanding. If you're not taking the time to think like a business owner,
Yes.
you may never become one.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, I mean, sure, there might be plenty of people who think out there that I don't ever want to have my own. It's too much stress. But listen, there's a lot of freedom that comes with owning your own. There's a lot that comes with it. Sure, there's a lot on your back, but there's a lot that comes with it. And many of those folks may not be being honest with themselves, like you said, because you sat down with some of those people and it's been like, tell me what you really want to do.
What do you really
Tell me
want?
what your dream is.
What is your dream? Exactly. Because and it's easier to get there than you think.
Right. And then once they hear that, it's like,
I think people overthink it and they think that, well, I have to have the this and I have to have that. And, and you really, I mean, there's certain businesses clearly, but here's a great example.
Okay.
So I have a friend / client who has found out she has celiac disease. Okay. So she had to learn how to cook and eat gluten-free. Mm-hmm. And because if she has it, it seriously devastates her. Mm-hmm. So she came up with the idea, well, she lives in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs doesn't have any restaurants where I can go and eat good gluten-free food. Okay. And she's like, well, I want to start a business doing that. And so she's like, well, I have to have the freezer case and I have to have the employees and I have to have the this permit and the that permit. And I said, well, why? I said, why can't you just start now? I said, do you have a kitchen? And I said, you can get one of those kitchen licenses. You have to do a couple of little things, but you get a basket, you can make muffins and sandwiches and little soups, and you could go to offices and deliver.
Yes.
She's doing it.
That's great.
She just catered her first 40-person birthday party.
Oh, wow.
So I think what happens oftentimes is that people think they get way far out there, if that makes sense.
Right. They're thinking about the more successful people and the big businesses that they've seen, and they're like,
well, I have to do that. So
I'm not ready to do that.
So it's almost like you have to scale it back and go, okay, well, how could I do this business in its most simple form and still make money?
Yes.
So clearly, it's again, you need to know your numbers. Mm-hmm. And so not a math person, but I can add and subtract, multiply, divide. And that's really what you need to know is, all right, so if I need to make $5,000 a month to live on, and that's not a lot in SoCal, but let's just say, you're a young person and maybe that's a lot of money. Uh-huh. How do I scale that back into X number of sales or X widgets, and how do I do that without a lot of overhead? Mm-hmm. Because you just have to start. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel that a lot of entrepreneurs need to get out of their own way.
That's right.
That's right. So you got to dream big and look at it in terms of, okay, how can I do this without all of the extra stuff?
And take that first step. I really like it. We're logging that as a business lesson. This is Rachel's business lesson. You don't need to have everything in place to start. Sometimes you just need to start.
That's right.
Okay, good. I love it. Tell me about more about volunteering your time. I know you're doing more than just
so much.
The chamber.
Yes.
You're working with the Rotary
It's my heart.
Club.
Honestly, I love volunteering, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted. Well, besides my kids. Oh gosh, where do I start?
Right.
After this, I'm going to a board meeting for a group called Women of Promise.
Okay.
So we help women of all ages with all things. I know that sounds like a really large...
You got a big job there.
Yeah. They're actually, I think, based out here out of Vista.
Okay.
And we're doing blessing baskets this weekend. So as a single mom, I understand that need. And so I joined the organization to help with that. So help out in any way that I can. And it's not just helping with, diapers, if women need diapers, or they need food, or they need a place to stay, or we're developing all sorts of programs. So I definitely have a heart for that, having been a single mom, but helping with job skills. If you need a resume written, if you need clothes to wear to an interview. So that is, a huge piece of my heart. I'm on the board for Agua Hedionda Lagoon Foundation.
Say that again.
Agua Hedionda.
Agua Hedionda.
It's one of the lagoons in Carlsbad. So Carlsbad has 3 lagoons. Mm-hmm. And so Agua Hedionda Lagoon is the only multi-use lagoon in Southern California.
Okay.
And so you'll see the California water sports where the jet skis and the...
Okay, I've been there.
You've been there. You can see it from the freeway. So anyway, there's a little building called the Discovery Center, and we teach kids about nature in nature.
Okay.
And I'm on their board. And it's really teaching people about being better stewards for our environment and about ecosystems. And,
Love it.
you know, because you teach the kids.
Yeah.
And so
Always about teaching kids.
I love kids.
Yeah.
So I love the kids. I love nature. It was a good fit for me. So definitely do a lot for that organization. I'm part of Carlsbad High Noon Rotary, and we, like I was telling you earlier, you know, we just packaged 10,000 meals.
Yeah.
But I'm really involved in any program that has to do with youth. Rotary has a program for youth leadership, and so I'm involved in that. I'm involved in their scholarships program because of education, of course.
Yeah.
And not having money for college, my heart is there for let's help kids who really want to go to college or junior college, and we're looking at trade schools now, giving money to kids who want to go to trade schools.
Love that.
Yeah.
So important right now.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there are different career paths.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is a
And
good
they're
one.
all needed.
And they're all needed. So maybe even I'll advocate for a grant to start their own business. I think that's a good idea. I'll talk to the scholarship committee.
Well, tell them to come by here. I'll teach them how to start a podcast.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
100%. I love this. I'm so glad that you were able to come over and hang out with me.
It's been
I know
fun.
you got a busy schedule.
I've got a ton of questions for you too. So.
No, you're a good interviewer. We'll do that next time.
Okay.
I think you should come back again though, because I'd love to continue this
teach me about
conversation.
podcasting.
I would love to. I mean, I do think that you'll be a good host. Okay. I told you that. I think you would, and you have a great radio voice as well.
Thank you.
So now, tell us how to stay in touch with you. We want our audience to get in touch with you and your big heart. You were just talking about the various organizations that you're involved with. Just let us know any contact information, Easy Life Management, anything.
They can, I mean, if you just Google my name, they'll find me everywhere.
Okay.
Rachel Ivanovich.
Let me spell it for
or, you know, Rachel at Elm Tax is my email. Okay. But yeah, if you want to spell it, I mean, if you Google me, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll find me. Okay. I can't hide.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Had a great time.
It's been fun.
Okay.
All right.
Same business, different day. Merry Christmas to the Same Business, Different Day podcast team. We hope you're all having a safe and happy holiday season. Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast throughout the year. We can't wait to share season 4 with you. #Meraki season is coming. Stay tuned.